what correctional officers really want. Don't tell me you care, show me you care, was an answer that I got from many officers from coast to coast in my travels over the last few years. Don't just buy me a pizza and say we care. Show me you care. Hi, I'm Gary York, True Prison Stories. Please subscribe if you like this video. I want to talk about some of the things that officers have told me that they would like to see happen. And you're going to be surprised that money was not mentioned first. Money was mentioned, but here's how money played into the factors of staying before I get into what officers want. Money in good paying agencies was the factor in the officers staying, even though they were frustrated with their work environment and their supervision. But they stayed because of the money and the benefits. The other factor I learned is in the lower paying agencies across the country, money was the factor in them leaving that agency, seeking out other agencies with higher pay. So that's why we're not going to talk about pay too much, because I did not get that answer very often as the number one reason. Here are, in order, the way I've been told things when I say, what do you want to see happen as a correctional officer in your agency? The number one answer, and this is from California to New York and in between, more staff. And that makes perfect sense, because short staffing is causing what? 16-hour shifts, mandatory overtime, more stress on the officers, makes a more dangerous work environment with less staff. Officers are getting no rest and no family time. More staff is the answer. So, recruiting. Let's talk about recruiting. Why are we not getting enough officers? Are we not recruiting hard enough? Is the recruiting process too slow? Are we not posting our jobs vacancies far enough outward or in enough areas? The people that are doing the hiring process, are they taking too long on background checks? Are they not trained properly on how to hire with efficiency? We want quality now, and we want numbers. We don't want just quantity. We want quality. Are they not using up-to-date techniques with technology for their hiring process to set up their interviews and keep up and keep track with what's going on with each individual applicant? And this is I believe this is a fact, are many of the applicants not eligible? Maybe 10 out of 100 make it through the entire process of background investigation, polygraph, physical fitness test, whatever it may be. Firearms, not qualifying. Some agencies do the firearms right up front, and if you can't qualify, you don't make it. You don't get in. So are some of the applicants not sufficient for us to hire? I think it's a combination of all these things, and we need to work on the hiring process, because what we're doing, if we're taking a long time to hire people, well, it's not affecting the folks in HR. They're not on the floor working. It's not affecting upper management. They're not on the floor working. It's affecting middle management and the front line. We must get more diligent in our hiring process and get more staff on the floor. Another area of concern was officer safety that was brought up. We are having many more stabbings than usual, not just inmate on inmate, but now we've had several officers attacked. some seriously injured and sent to the hospital. Now, when I hear that, I also see short staffing as that being a reason for that. Not enough staff, but there's many other reasons for that also. Maybe we are not using that inmate rule book and disciplining the inmates. I'm hearing that some agencies are saying, no, we're not going to punish the inmate for that. Just take the stuff away or break them up and move them. And I've even heard that some of the inmates that get in a fight in the dorm are left in that dorm. In the same dorm. Now, I've never heard of that in where I've worked. We moved them out and special reviewed them from the inmate they fought with. Or if they attacked an officer, we shipped them out to another area. But this is actually happening. I know it is because I've done on-site visits, and they're saying that some of the inmates are staying in the dorm because they have no other place to put them because of their classification. Well, we have to have another place. Don't we have some cells set aside for serious disciplinary issues? You know, we called it ISO. My time we called it confinement. Oh, don't use that word anymore. That's an offensive word, so let's don't use confinement. Let's just put administrative segregation until we can figure out what we're going to do with those folks. We need to also, officers saying they're not given enough support by their supervisors in asking them what they need. Hey, I'm making my rounds. What can I do for you? What do you need? Well, we could use more officers, but obviously we don't have them. So could we get some better equipment? Equipment was a problem as well, not having up-to-date and efficient equipment for officer safety. And training. We need more training on officer safety. Hey, how do you expect an officer to do their job well if they're not trained well? Train, train, train. Inmate manipulation. Ethics. Security operations. Train, train, train. Officers, there is one thing I'm going to ask you to do to help us out here. Read your policies and procedures. Oh my God, that's boring. Those policies and procedures are just to get us in trouble. They use it when they need it to write us up. No, really, the policies and procedures are there to protect you. Please know your policies and procedures. Please read them. And I think you'll find that you'll learn some things from it. And for you supervisors, policy and procedures here, but every incident is different when you have a use of force on an inmate. And this is nationwide. All officers say the same. Why are we getting written up if we have to veer this way or that way just a little bit? I'm going to tell you, use of force, you cannot have the same scenario in every use of force. Supervisors should be given the discrepancy to look at a use of force and, okay, now let me ask the officer, Officer Jones, Officer Smith, why did you do this way? And allow your officer to explain why they did it. And if it makes sense and nobody's hurt, nobody did anything that looks intentionally abusive, why do we don't have to write the officers up every time. We can talk to them. We can verbally counsel. We can teach and coach. Teach and coach. You don't have to run to the pen and paper every time, supervisors, and write your officers up. I wanted to get that out there. Officer safety is important, but if you don't allow the officers to protect themselves and you write them up for every little thing, they're going to be scared to do a use of force. They're going to be scared to protect themselves. They're going to get hurt. Or they won't do a use of force. They'll just sit back, call for backup, which you should, and take care of it when everybody gets there. But what if you are spontaneously attacked? An officer is attacked spontaneously. There's no time to call for backup. You're fighting for your life. Those are the type of situations I want the supervisors to understand, that we have to back up our officers. More training, I talked about that. That's something every officer said. Now, a lot of people think, oh, officers don't like training. Oh, here we go again. Well, this is what you need to do. We don't want to see the same old training videos from 1990. The same old training that we've seen. If I'm a 20-year veteran, I've seen this video 20 times now. Come on. Up-to-date training. Make the training interesting. Make the training effective. Make the training up to date. And officers want that. They want that. Short staffing is hindering getting our officers into training. Some places have reported their certifications are overlapping because they don't have enough staff and they can't get them off post to get it done. So it's a month later after their certification in a certain area has overlapped. Well, agency, let me tell you what happens. You're going to have to find a way to get these officers in and trained on time, because if an incident occurs and it hits the news and people sue the agency, what are the first things they do with the officers when the investigators come in? I want the training records of that officer, that officer, that officer. This officer is not certified any longer. His certification overlap. And you've got him or her on the floor. They're in this use of force. You're just setting up failure for the agency and making some defense attorneys or some attorney who's suing just as happy as can be to take that into court. Wake up. Wake up. We know these problems are here already. Why am I talking about them? Why are we not taking action on these issues, folks? Good leadership. Oh my God, every place mentioned that as well. Officers want authentic leaders. What do they mean by that? Well, they want a supervisor who is sincere and cares and doesn't say they care, but they show they care by getting out on the floor. Hey, you haven't had a break? You're working 16 hours? Here, take 20 minutes. We're in between feeding, and we're in between med pass, and we're in between rec. Let me sit here for 20 minutes. Go take a walk. Get a cup of coffee or Coke or something. That 20 minutes to that officer, given to them by a caring supervisor, is huge, folks. Huge respect. That supervisor that doesn't come around and ask if you need anything, ask if you're okay, ask if you need help, and stays in their office all shift, and you never see them except at briefing at the end of the shift when they wave goodbye, that's not being a leader. You know, the boss versus leader thing. A leader gets out there. Another thing officers want to see is when it gets into dangerous situations, that leader or supervisor is in there with you, shoulder to shoulder, getting things done. I remember the supervisors when they called for assistance and we ran to help, and you look next to you as you're going down the long hallway, we call it, and there's Lieutenant Shock running to get there as fast as he can. You think, well, I'm going to beat the lieutenant. Can't let the lieutenant beat me to the scene. Respect. Running and helping to save their officers. Not the supervisor that sits in the office on the radio. Are you guys there yet? Everything okay? Blah, blah, blah. You know he can get up or she can get up and get down there. Even their presence. They don't have to run in the dorm and assist with the hands-on, but their presence. You finish with the hands-on, you look up, there's my supervisor in here with us. Come on, we know these things need to be done. Why are we not doing them in some cases, okay? More promotion from within the ranks is another one that the officers express. They said to me that why are we hiring all these administrators from outside agencies? Not that they can't be good leaders, but here comes the military colonel. Here comes the guy who worked in finance for his whole life. Now he's in charge up high, upper administration. They are saying that it is more beneficial to the agency to to promote from within. Why? Well, promoting from within helps retain staff, believe it or not. How many of you ever heard that? Promoting from within helps retain staff. Because if I am an officer that's interested in moving up the ranks, I know that by the time I get to captain, major, colonel, I might have a shot at being one of these administrative positions. Okay, it's not for everybody. I'm talking about the ones of you. I'm going to hang around. I'm going to stay with the agency because I want that position. But if I see all these outsiders getting the job, it's like, well, I'm at a dead end now. You know, give staff something to look forward to that wish to be promoted. Many don't. My brother did 23 years with the Las Cruces Police Department. Never cared about being promoted. He loved being a patrolman. Okay? That's great also. But the retention part is what we want to focus on, folks. What are we going to do to keep staff? If we don't give them a goal to shoot for, they may move on to another agency that does promote from within, all right? Okay. Also, leadership, I kind of hit that earlier about being there for your staff and all that, so we hit on that. More promotion within the ranks. Health and wellness was another big one for the officers. They're like, hey, I'm working 16-hour shifts, 4 days straight. I'm tired. And on one or two of those shifts, every now and then, they pop me for an extra 4 hours because the other shift has too many call-ins. Officers are abusing FMLA and sick time, leaving their comrades out to dry. If you really need FMLA, it's there and you should take it if it's really sincere. For the sake of your fellow officers, if you don't really need that FMLA, don't take it. And banging out, as we call it. Well, I know a lot of officers, and I don't know how to say this because some people get mad one way or the other, but you've worked 4 16-hour shifts, 3 of them turned into 20 hours. And they say you got a mandatory now because of a 3-day weekend or whatever. And you're just worn out. You're worn out. And people are banging in to get that extra day off. May not do it on the mandatory day, but when they know the mandatory day is coming up, they're banging out at the front end of the work week. It's just hard. It's very hard. It's stressful on everybody. It's stressful on the supervisors with the scheduling. Stressful on your co-workers because they have to fill in when you're gone. But it's also stressful for the officers, for everybody. So we've got to find a way, and I think agencies should find some type of inner audit or inner investigation and try to find out a way to create a better schedule if your officers are just getting burned out really bad. It's hard, I know. You try 12-hour shifts, you try 8-hour shifts, you try 4 10-hour shifts, then you go to 4 16-hour shifts. It's a sad situation and something that needs to be studied and worked on. They want stability. Officers want stability. Steady leadership for positive change. Meaning that here comes some administrator from some financial company, takes over. Here comes some administrator from the military, and they hang around for 3 years. Or you get a new secretary of corrections, or you get a new commissioner. Big ideas. Here's what we're going to do. And they only hang around 2 or 3 years and they're gone. Officers are saying this is a never-ending cycle and nothing ever really comes to fruition. It doesn't really happen. Well, I don't think we're going to be able to change that the way they change the high-ranking secretaries and commissioners so quickly. But I think what we need to do is find a way for them to communicate and leave a report, verbal and written, with the next coming in commander. These are the things I did during my tenure that worked very well. And hopefully the things that have worked well, if they work well and not broken, don't fix it. Leave it. And then the things that did not work well, that next person should start trying to figure out ways to make that better. That's a tough situation, but I understand what they're saying. They're also saying that they don't have corrections knowledge and some of their decisions don't make sense. I have to agree. And there's also outside entities. Your county commissioners, your city council, your oversight committees, your courts ordering for this to be done from now on at the prison or the jail. And it makes no security sense at all. It actually endangers the officers more. Big complaint on that one, because we're going back to officer safety. These outside entities pushing for things to be done differently are endangering our correctional officers. We need our commissioners, secretaries of correction, and wardens, and regional directors to get up to the legislature and demand they be heard on these issues and educate them on why we can't do things the way they're asking. So let's focus on the solutions. Please, show me you care. There's so many more things we could talk about, but I think I hit the highlights. I wrote an article on that. It's getting a lot of good comments on it, thank goodness, because, you know, the corrections world is one of the most truthful speaking. In other words, if you're offended easily, you don't want to be a correctional officer, because correctional officers are going to tell you, and I was one on the floor for 14 and a half years, on the floor, state and county, with my of my 28 years in corrections, almost 29. But I know, we're going to tell you what we think. We don't mess around. If you don't like the truth, or as they say, can't handle the truth, don't ask a correctional officer. But in my opinion, you better ask the front line and get feedback. You better ask mid-management and get feedback. And better take heed to what they say and show them you care. Thank you for listening to me today. Please subscribe. Gary York, True Prison Stories.